here's something I just wanted to ask and get your opinion on. Voice of the customer and understanding that is so important. And the second takeaway that I had from what you said was that we have to be proactive at getting the right voices in front of the right people at the right times in the right context. And that takes time and that takes effort. Where you said a lot of in there about that a lot of us think we already know the customer, that you've just debunked that, right?
The thing is that we, as a service provider, think we already know the customer. And the reality is that the customer thinks they already know us, but they only know us through a specific angle. So it's kind of two different angles, which can totally miss each other. When it comes to selling like big deals, usually you have a whole lot of people involved in the process of the purchasing. But actually, before even buying, they already have their set of supplier, their potential set of supplier, and they have those in mind since months already. So if you don't find a way to come in those people's mind way, way, way ahead, there's just zero chance you're even going to be on the list of potential suppliers. So it takes a long effort ahead of time. Sometimes it's years ahead to be sure that your company is going to be listed on the potential suppliers for this or this service. So it's like customers are convinced they know you. You are convinced you know the customer, but both have I would say, a partial reality of who each other is. So when you look at that, you say, I mean, there's so many holes to which we can fill. So it really takes a strategy, and it's not a short-term strategy. It's a mid-term, sometimes long-term, according to the length of your purchasing cycle. But it is an effort which needs to be understood from the top of the organization. If you don't have your CEO who's sales-minded and you don't have a chief of revenue or sales head who has that understanding, it's not going to happen. It really needs to come from the top. It needs long-term investment in terms of relationship, touch points with different people, not just the one who's going to buy, but the ones who work on the strategy. So it also means that usually you need to have salespeople who are able to talk to C-levels. And in most companies, the salespeople have the relationship with the people who are going to support the delivery. And part of them do not have the experience or the posture to talk with the C-level. Whereas it is when you talk to the C-level that you get an understanding of what the real stakes are. What are the stakes on which you can position your company or your offering? And how do you build, I would say, the different touch points so they put you on their list when the decision is going to be made on buying the service? So definitely it takes a strategy and it takes some convictions from the top to make it happen.
And to have those top conversations with top executives in the organizations, the ABM targets you're having there. And executive access is one of the hardest things. To get those conversations is one of the most difficult things to do. But if you don't have an intentionality to have those kinds of conversations, which are maybe outside of the traditional, right? About 8 months ago, I had on a 4-time B2B CRO, and he was all about the voice of the customer. And he said, but let me tell you, Steve, he said, I'm talking about conversations with the customer outside of the sales environment, outside of where they're being pitched, right? And that's what I'm getting from you. And you had also said in one of our earlier conversations that we're not even asking the right questions. It's different in what are the questions that we should be asking, right? We're opening up a whole area here of insights in learning. And what is it that we should be learning? What are the questions we should be asking?
We should be asking questions which give us information on the bigger picture. We tend to be very focused on, the direct information we're looking for. Do you need this or that? But it's really about understanding in which environment the customer is. What are the current, I kind of repeat the word stake, but that's what it all is about. Having them discuss about where's the company going? What are the difficulties they're encountering? What's been different this year? What are the competitors doing? What are the suppliers which have surprised you? For what reason? What have they provided? Just having a conversation which just not related to what you're trying to sell, but a conversation which is giving you information on the environment in which your customer is is going to provide you with tons of little bits of information, which at one point is going to build something that's going to hook them and help you do the next sell. You kind of need to forget about what you want to sell and really have the deep will to understand where your customer sits, in which state they are, what are the problems they're facing. It's very often also a very personal relationship. Just being a good listener. I mean, if you ask the right questions, people like to talk. Of course, you need to be subtle. I mean, you need to be interested in what they're telling you. That's the thing. That's the reality. It needs to be some sort of authentic relationship between two people. And it's kind of taking it from a higher perspective in some sense. And that higher perspective is going to give you tons of information to help you then be very relevant in terms of what you're going to explain, how you're basically going to help them. The idea is, how am I going to help you? But pushing your idea on how you're going to help them is going to come very naturally once you understood the context and their environment in which they are. But it takes maturity in the conversation. It takes, I would say, maturity in the sale approach. And it probably also takes time. Time builds this quality of relationship. I think time is important when it comes to building trust with a customer. All this comes down to trust at the end of the day, It's very linked to the trust. How do you build trust with a person? Whether it's on your personal life or in your professional life, it's pretty similar. How do you build trust? It kind of comes down to that.